last time on Missing Stars, our hero Erik Wilhelm returned Jean to class, had lunch with Ella, who showed great concern over his experience, disappointed the shit out of her by telling her he's fine, and witnessed the lovely Katja singing at church. After a brief quasi-flirting exchange, Katja leaves Erik to ponder life, the universe, and sandwiches. Probably. Our story picks up as Erik awaits his first appointment with the infamous Dr. Faber. Will he survive his counseling? I don't fucking know, let's find out!
She walks down the aisle and out of the chapel. The end of our conversation was starting to feel like an impromptu therapy session. Just Katja always probe like that? She also stopped before digging too deep, though, so I didn't exactly mind. I still have some time before my actual appointment with Dr. Faber, so I decided to give the interior a more thorough look. Distracted as I was with Katja earlier, it's only now that I noticed some of the details. The windows aren't just impressively tall, they're also filled with intricate stained glass artwork. Here and there I can recognize the images as representing biblical figures, but even those that look unfamiliar are rather beautiful. I'm reminded of all the nursery rhymes and childhood hymns. They were surprisingly effective at teaching without forcing assigned readings upon me. I suppose that's what they call an oral tradition. Through my thoughts, I hear footsteps approaching from a chamber at the side of the hall. Just as I've turned to look, a heavy door swings open with a creak and a congenial-looking elderly man steps through. Oh, goddamn, I was hoping it was going to be Fran. From his attire, it's clear he's some sort of priest. Like the organ, I should have expected his presence, but the thought never occurred to me. He smiles at me from across the pews and makes his way toward me. I see you've met Miss Baum. Boom? Boom. She is a bomb. Bombshell. Hell yeah! His voice drifts around the hall with a comforting warmth. It isn't loud, but it's stronger than I'd guessed from his narrow frame, and deeper, too. I can imagine what it would be like to listen to his sermons, reassuring if you're not sure you understand his meaning. As he reaches me, I can make out some of his features more clearly. His pensive gray eyes observe me without a hint of judgment, and his wrinkles show the age of someone who spent most of his life smiling. In a word, I describe it as gentle. Yeah, we've spoken a few times. He gives me a once-over himself and offers another smile, which I do my best to return. I'm Father Maximilian Steinhoff, rector of St. Diphnat. That is quite a mouthful, however, and you should just feel free to call me Father Max. I assume you are the new arrival, Erik Wilhelm? I have not seen you yet. As Father Max says this, he extends a hand. I shake it, putting these new pieces together. Of course we'd have a father at the chapel, that much makes sense. But if he's a rector, I don't know what that means. You're in charge around here, not the principal? Now he grins. Ah, yes, in practice he is the principal. My responsibilities tend toward the ecumenical. I've never actually seen that word before. Representing a number of different Christian churches. Okay, fair enough. My responsibilities tend toward the ecumenical, and it's most convenient for the school that I leave him to his duties. He performs them admirably. But that's probably why I've never seen that word, because I avoid church like the plague. So it's a signature? For a clergyman to leave the school, it's still a bit of a surprise. It's just not the impression you'd get from the clinical energy everything has. I guess with a name like St. Diphnat, I should have guessed that this was a religious institution. He holds up a hand as though he's asking for my patience. Strictly speaking, Erik, you are correct. This is a religious institution. Damn it. That said, I wouldn't worry yourself about any implications of that term. Once upon a time, this was a Jesuit monastery, and on paper, it's still the property of the order, but that is purely theoretical. The legal status is neither reflected in school policy nor priority. We have religious services for those who would attend, but you're not obligated to them. That's good. I want to say that that's a relief, but I realize that might be rude. I understand. Thank you for the clarification. Father Max gives me a nod. I'm here to help however I might. You're welcome to contact me if I can ever be of assistance, and that offer goes for more than just relationship troubles between yourself and God. He looks at me expectantly, and when I laugh at his joke, smiles with obvious satisfaction. I will. Now he looks down the hall at the entrance through which Katja had left just now. Katja doesn't usually have visitors during her practices, you know. Yeah, she told me. We were talking yesterday, and she mentioned that she sings here often, so I thought I'd stop by after class. I'm glad you did. I don't think enough people appreciate that girl's talent. There's a lot to appreciate, that's for you. I think he knows what I'm talking about. I think he raised his eyebrows a little, but he carries on unperturbed. Indeed, she's been practicing for the gala in 2 weeks. I'd strongly recommend you attend. Oh, it makes sense she'd be performing then. I'll try to go, that for sure. Good, good. If I might ask, how have your first few days at St. Tifnas been? Oh, I struggled to put together an answer he might find satisfactory. Good so far, still getting my bearings. I've been meeting people and maybe making friends. So I see. Again, he glances significantly to the doors Katja had just left through, and his meaning is obvious enough. I guess Katja and I are friends. Friend adjacent. Approximately friends. Yeah. Something about the patient way Father Max regards me makes me want to say more. Honestly, I'm not sure about how to interact with people. I'm doing my best to be accommodating, but I'm still afraid of doing something wrong, or caring too much about doing something wrong. Your concerns are entirely understandable, Erik. Every student here has to go through an adjustment phase of their own. None are necessarily easy. I know, I just wish it would be over sooner rather than later. Don't we always? But time flies much faster when we're keeping ourselves occupied with friends. I've been trying. And succeeding, it would seem. Hell yeah. Don't fret too much, Erik. With friends like Katja, I'd say you're getting your bearings just fine. I don't think he's wrong, but he's bringing up Katja a lot. Do you know Katja well? My question catches him off guard, like he thought it was obvious. I suppose I never mentioned. My duties include leading the school's choir. Oh, so you're technically her teacher. Something like that, yes. I'd say I advise more than teach. I'm not invested enough to ask him to explain the difference, and luckily, he doesn't expect me to. As you'd imagine, that means I've spoken to Miss Bohm regularly since she joined. I'm not trying to make fun of, foreign languages. I'm making fun of the fact that I don't know how to pronounce them, so forgive me if that's annoying, but I kind of like just being silly, so. Like, Miss Claes! Right. How does the choir work actually? I mean, is it one big group, or... yes, the choir sings together. Sometimes one member will have a solo, or a pair may perform as a duo, but even in those cases, the others provide some background harmony. Why do you ask? Are you considering joining? Oh, not exactly, no, I was just curious. I can't really sing. Father Max offers a sage nod. That's fair enough, though we do welcome students of all levels. We all start somewhere. I'll keep that in mind. I won't, really, but that was the polite thing to say. That's good to hear. He turns his arm to get a look at his watch, then gives me a smile. I had stepped out to give you my welcome, Erik, but unfortunately my responsibilities call me. I've got a mountain of paperwork to go through, as I always seem to do. You understand. For now, welcome to St. Tifnas. I hope to see you around again. Thanks, yeah, I'll be around. I wave, and he turns back to the side room he'd come from. I'm left once again with my thoughts, and I realize I've lost track of the time. According to my phone, it's getting close to my appointment with Dr. Faber. I'll probably be fine, but I'm not going to risk being late to my very first appointment. I take one final look around the chapel before setting off. I leave the chapel and begin my slow walk toward Dr. Faber's office. This meeting should be the least of my worries. Considering that I left so early, I have no reason to be late to my first appointment. I guess it's pretty good I left early. I don't know how my leg is going to hold up, and I'm not too familiar with the route. It's probably for the best that I don't take any risks, but maybe it wouldn't be so bad if I found myself arriving late to the appointment. I don't think Faber could fault me for that, considering what I have to contend with. Should I really stress myself out over making my way there as soon as possible? Maybe I can come up with some excuse, miss the session entirely. Nope, you don't want to do that. Nope. From the corner of my eye, I managed to spot a sign which conveniently points me to the school's main building. There it is, clear as day, begging to be noticed by the students on campus. How could anyone possibly miss that? Alright then, Erik. Enough stalling. Unluckily for me, the paths to the psychiatry offices are pretty intuitive. Every sidewalk connects to the main walkway in some way or another. All you have to do is walk straight and you're bound to end up where you're supposed to be. I grit my teeth in frustration. Pretty straightforward for a person like me, working my way to my psychiatrist's office. My visit to Dr. Faber is just another confirmation that I belong here. No. For all the people I've met at the school, I can't afford to think like that. Hey! Nah, you got it, dude. I like Erik. No matter what happened, I'm still me. I'm still Erik Wilhelm. Yes, very healthy attitude to have. I exhale my held breath in an effort to relieve some of the tension gripping my body. No, I'm really not the same anymore. Maybe, but is that a bad thing? Ignoring my problems won't make them go away, and forgetting my situation won't let me get past it either. Well, look at that, I'm already making progress in my head. Maybe I don't need to sit down and talk about my problems after all. Don't get into that mindset. That train of thought probably won't win me any favors with Dr. Faber, or anyone. From here it's just a straight shot to the main building. Yet every step makes me realize how much distance there is between the buildings and myself. Every foot forward feels like a losing battle, my leg wobbling dangerously underneath me. As much as this walk sucks, I just need a few moments, and finally... Is it Fran? No, fuck. God damn it. I reach the doors to the school offices. As I stumble through the double doors, I'm immediately struck by how blue the hallway is. That doesn't look very blue. So this is one thing that I do have to criticize the game so far on, is that a lot of the descriptions in the text don't match the artwork. And Kato Shoujo was actually pretty good about that, so it's a little bit off-putting that it's not as consistent here. They probably chose blue to be calming and relaxing, but for me it has the opposite effect. The decor starts to make my stomach churn, unless I'm colorblind. The decor starts to make my stomach churn, until I'm forced to look down and concentrate on my footsteps. Of course the school would paint the hallways in a forcefully relaxing color. However, with my eyes now on the floor, I can now clearly make out the imprints of past visitors' shoes on the hallway carpeting. I'm horrified to find that my feet are falling squarely into them. I force my head up and find that I'm coming close to a junction. On the wall, a conveniently placed non-blue sign directs me to Faber's office. Of course, just what I would expect from this school. It's comically impossible to get lost no matter how hard a student might try. If the campus were more complicated, or there were less signs, then you could conveniently get lost? How great it would be if by the time I reached the office my appointment were over. I mean, I understand the sentiment, dude, but just don't do that. It's not my fault, Dr. Faber, just an unfortunate set of coincidences causing me to miss every sign on campus. Perhaps our meeting will just have to be scheduled for a future time. A time when I'm not freaking out at this very moment. Understandable. Yeah. I'm pretty hard on Erik, but yeah, I mean, he's going through a rough time. What a ridiculous thought. Yes! Could I forget the way here every time I have an appointment? No. My eyes are already fixed on another sign directing me to Faber's office. Hell, at this point I can even see his door. Maybe I could just skip it. What can they do, scold me? Yes. Kick me out of the school? I shake my head. What is wrong with you, Erik? You're just nervous. You're in a completely new situation. You're dealing with an entirely new type of problem that you've never had to deal with before. You're scared. You're insecure. You're wondering, am I a freak? Am I, not normal anymore? It's a lot of stuff you're going through, dude. Just cut yourself some slack, but stick to the recommendations of the professionals. I'm already here, standing conspicuously in the middle of the corridor. I'm just around the corner from another nearby office, and close enough to hear the light clicks of a keyboard and rustling papers. I'm not alone. Faber's door is directly in front of me. All I have to do is walk forward, yet my body feels light years away. My heart is trembling, and I can't find myself able to commit to any kind of motor function. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. You have to do this. I inhale sharply and attempt to calm my racing nerves. One step at a time. Any distance can be covered, one step at a time. I can do this. It takes some effort, but I'm able to force myself to take the final few motions to Faber's office. Good for you, dude. Any cynical thoughts I have are pushed into the recesses of my mind. I knock once. Silence. Maybe he didn't hear? Before I can retreat, the door is opened. I didn't hear any sound of him approaching the door from the outside. He's a vampire! In the briefest of moments, he's simply there, looking professionally composed and smiling. He doesn't look smiling. Is this a time for another Eric's dad meme-tastic moment that nobody will ever meme because I get like no views on these videos? Hello, Erik. I nod swiftly in acknowledgement, feeling more like a deer in headlights than a student here for a simple counseling appointment. Please come in. You're right on time. I trudge into the office, and am immediately thrown off by what I see. This room isn't how I imagined a psychiatrist's office would look. Of course, there's a couch at one end of the room, but the entire office feels unexpectedly mundane. It looks like a normal school office, a cramped space covered in sunlight with various papers and books strewn everywhere. One wall is lined with diplomas, accompanied by an assortment of what seem to be personal photos. I don't see any of that. The strangest part of the room that I can see is that his desk is pushed to face the far side of the wall. Erik? I stiffen as I direct my attention to Faber, hoping he doesn't notice. Would you like to sit down? Yes, please. Just how tense do I look right now? I can feel it in my shoulders. I look for other seating arrangements beside the couch and can see that I have a few options. Excluding the chair taken by Faber, there are two others in the room. One of them is a beanbag, and the other... What the fuck is a beanbag? The other is an armchair. I decide on the latter and try to make myself comfortable on the creased, aged leather. From here, I await judgment. How are you holding up so far? I nod mechanically, desperate to try and say something. Fine? It's a good start. He doesn't question my answer and simply returns a nod. I'm glad you found your way here. I can understand how confusing it might be to find your way around an unfamiliar environment. I fight against the smile I feel forming on my face, shrugging. There are signs everywhere. So there are. Are you ready to get started? He patiently waits for my response, though at this point, it's not really like I can say, nah, I'm good, I just showed up to say hey. I resign myself to a slow nod. Liking the music, too. Music's pretty good. Alright then. He has his chair positioned to directly face me, making it obvious that I have his full attention. How have you been settling so far? I can feel my chest sink a little. I think carefully about my choice of words and try responding in a way that doesn't sound problematic. That's not good. You have to be honest. Only been here a couple days, but so far I think I'm doing alright. I mean, nothing seems deliberately nasty or anything, I guess. Faber's smile falters a little, and one of his hands reaches up to touch a part of his beard. Were you expecting things to be deliberately nasty? Shit. But I know, but I don't know. New skills typically feel weird, I guess. I might have worked myself into a corner here. Faber nods. I understand. It can be difficult to adjust to a new school, but I'm glad nothing bad has stood out to you. Though I am surprised. I mean, when I came in a few years back, I certainly found the school's food to be deliberately nasty. His comment throws me off guard. You think the food here is nasty? I think you might be a little spoiled now. It's much better than it used to be. Though it was hard for me first starting out. Does he sound exactly like the priest? I don't know. Before my time here, I did a little traveling, and I admit I grew a little attached to some of the fancier European cuisines. Before I realize it, my body is leaning toward Dr. Faber, and I find myself engaged in the conversation. He's good. He knows what he's doing. Where have you traveled? A twinkle of light flashes across Faber's eyes. Well, where can I start? I've of course toured France's countryside from the waters of Saint Malo, all the way down to Toulouse. I'm gonna have fun with this, where I spent a summer. I've seen the Atlantic in Porto and the Mediterranean during winter in Venezia. I did enjoy my time in Switzerland quite a bit. Lucerne, Basel. That's... I start to interrupt Faber, but retract immediately once I realize I've rudely interrupted him. He shakes his head with a soft smile. You are not at fault, Erik. What did you want to say? I was just going to say that Basel is where I grew up. My parents live out there now, but it was our whole family's home for a while. Surprising myself, I start talking about my experiences back home. I talk for a while about growing up and the fun memories I shared with my brother and sisters. I realize I'm smiling without having to force it. I see. Basel is a lovely city to raise family in. I understand your older siblings moved out not too long ago, correct? My brother Gustav moved out a few years ago, and my sisters just recently moved in together in Vienna. Why don't you tell me more about them? No matter what I say, Faber patiently listens and engages in the conversation. This isn't an interrogation. Awesome. He's starting to get it. Towards the end of our session, Faber turns to pick up a thick folder from atop his desk. Now, before we leave off today, I would like you to go through some extra paperwork so that I can get a better idea of your situation. Do you mind? I shake my head. The folder he passes me is so thick that I don't need a clipboard to write my answers down. Thankfully, the questions are all multiple choice, so I don't focus too much on the folder's weight. Don't overthink your answers, just go with whatever seems right in the moment. He passes me a pen, and with a little hesitation, I begin to mark down the answers I feel comfortable with. I'm surprised by how much more at ease I am, even filling out personal medical questions. Minutes later, I put down the pen and pass the papers back. The joints of my fingers are a little sore, but I survived. Dr. Faber flicks through all the papers at an inhuman speed. I'd be surprised if he could actually read any of the documents he's skimming. It's only at the very end that he pauses briefly, reading one of the last sections a little bit more thoroughly before closing the entire folder and setting it back on his desk. Everything looks good. I'll go over the details to review for our next appointment, which will be next week at this time. I have your phone number on file, and my contact info was included in the last email I sent you. You'll receive text reminders for the next week's appointment in case you forget. Also, he reaches yet again back to his desk. Before I can groan at the thought of more paperwork, he passes me over a black hardcover journal. I'd like to keep a journal to record your thoughts. Oh, that's awesome! Yes, exactly. Journal. That's a very, very, very useful tool. To record your thoughts every evening. I say all this stuff like I know what I'm talking about, and yet I don't keep a journal. I don't go to therapy. Yeah. I know I should. I know what I should be doing, but I don't do it. It doesn't have to be anything too extensive, just simple remarks about what you've done and how you feel each day. The book looks expensive, though I'm hardly an expert. I flip through all the blank pages, taking in the smell of crisp new paper. Makes me feel like I'd be ruining these pages with the scrawlings of my mundane life rather than contributing to them. What are you going to use this for? Nothing. The journal is for you. If it helps, we'll continue to have you use it. If it doesn't, then you don't have to write in it. But it's best to start writing out your thoughts now. Getting into the habit of writing daily might be more beneficial than you think. I give a reaffirming nod. And Erik. Yes, sir? Faber maintains his smile, but his gaze becomes more intense as he continues. If you need anything from me between appointments, please call. I will always strive to answer the phone, but if I do not, then please leave a voicemail and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Day or night, it's my job to be here and help you. Got it. Thanks. Faber's expression warms and he slaps his legs decisively, standing. Great! Well, I look forward to seeing you next week. I blankly stare at him in surprise. Without realizing it, the session is already over, and what should have felt like an hour passed by in only moments. This isn't how I imagined the therapy would be. Yeah, nobody does. I mean, as long as you get somebody who knows what they're doing, and can engage with you on a personal level, it's not that bad at all. I like this game. I like this game a lot. I like the fact that they're destigmatizing mental illness. They're making it a point to highlight Erik's pensiveness with the whole situation and his fear about all the negative aspects of it, and coming to realize that, oh hey, maybe things aren't that terrible. It's just another medical condition to deal with. That's it. Dr. Faber nods, his amused smile telling me this isn't the first time he's heard this question. Is there anything on your mind, Erik? Well, yeah, but this was a lot more straightforward than I thought it would be. Faber holds a smile. I'm here as a resource for you, Erik. The meetings will go however you want them to. That's cool. I don't really know what else to say, but already I'm physically feeling a lot better. For now, remember to work on the journal I gave you, and for this week, try to find a few new opportunities to make some good friends here. Lena! It's important to find some safe spaces to settle into with any new school. It will also be a good goal to focus on for our next meeting, don't you think? I give off a final but very comfortable nod. Taking this as a cue to leave, I stand up from my chair. I could feel the cold air hitting the sweat that had collected on my back, but at this point the sensation is quite refreshing. Thank you for your time. Anytime, Erik.
I'll leave the office and shut the door with an unexpected smile on my face.